Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night, staring into the darkness, asking a question that has no easy answer? If God is loving, why does my life hurt so much? This question does not come from curiosity alone. It rises from exhaustion, from tears that have been held back, from moments when the heart feels too heavy to carry. Almost every human being, at some point, reaches this silent crossroads. You may have done everything right, tried to be kind, tried to live honestly, and yet suffering still arrives. It comes without invitation, without warning, and often without explanation. When it does, the mind immediately searches for meaning. Is this a punishment? Have I failed? Am I being tested? These thoughts can make suffering feel even more painful, because they add fear and guilt to an already wounded heart. But what if this question itself is incomplete? What if suffering is not a sign of divine anger, but a call for deeper understanding? What if the universe is not trying to break you, but to awaken something within you that comfort never could? These are not easy ideas, and they are not meant to dismiss your pain. Your pain is real. Your struggles matter. Yet spiritual wisdom gently invites us to look beyond the surface of events. It asks us to consider that life may be speaking in a language we have not yet learned to understand. Today, let us slow down and approach this question with kindness, patience, and honesty. Not to judge suffering, not to glorify it, but to understand its purpose. Because when suffering is understood, it begins to lose its power to frighten us, and may even become a doorway to inner awakening. Suffering often feels personal, as if life has singled you out for hardship. But spiritual wisdom asks us to look deeper, beyond emotion, into the quiet laws that govern existence. Just as the sun rises without favor and gravity acts without judgment, life unfolds through universal law, not through reward or punishment. Pain does not arrive because God is angry or disappointed. It arrives because every action, thought, and intention carries energy, and that energy eventually returns to teach us balance. This is not cruelty, it is order. When a child touches fire, the burn is not a punishment, it is a lesson that protects future life. In the same way, suffering teaches the soul where it is out of harmony with truth, awareness, or inner peace. Many people fear this idea because they think it means blame. It does not. It means responsibility without condemnation. Spiritual law is not concerned with guilt, it is concerned with growth. Every experience, pleasant or painful, shapes consciousness and refines understanding. When life becomes difficult, it is often because something within us is ready to mature. Comfort keeps us moving in familiar circles, but difficulty interrupts those patterns and forces reflection. It slows us down and asks us to look inward rather than outward for answers. This understanding changes everything. Instead of seeing suffering as an enemy, we begin to see it as a messenger. It arrives not to punish the soul, but to educate it. When this truth is deeply felt, fear begins to soften. The heart stops asking, "Why is this happening to me?" and starts asking, "What is life trying to show me?" In that moment, suffering loses its power to crush us. It becomes part of a larger, intelligent process, one that is always guiding the soul toward greater awareness, balance, and inner freedom. The soul does not come into this world to remain comfortable, it comes to become conscious. Comfort suits the surface of life, but it rarely touches the depths of who we are. When everything is easy, the mind stays outward, busy with pleasure, routine, and distraction. There is little reason to question life, little reason to search for meaning beyond what is visible. But suffering changes this direction. It turns the attention inward. It asks questions that comfort never asks. In moments of loss, disappointment, or deep confusion, the soul begins to awaken from its long sleep and wonder, who am I beyond this experience? Pain strips away illusions. It reveals how much of our happiness depends on things that can be taken away. When those supports collapse, we are forced to face what remains. This is not meant to frighten us, but to free us. The soul grows when it realizes that identity is deeper than roles, achievements, or possessions. Suffering gently but firmly removes what is false, so what is real can be discovered. This process is uncomfortable because the ego resists change, yet the soul welcomes it. Every challenge carries an invitation to expand awareness. The soul learns patience through delay, compassion through loss, humility through failure, and strength through endurance. These qualities cannot be taught through words alone, they must be lived. Suffering becomes the classroom where these lessons are absorbed at the deepest level. When seen this way, pain is no longer meaningless. It becomes part of the soul's education. It is not evidence that life is cruel, but proof that the soul is being prepared for a deeper, more enduring freedom, one that is not dependent on circumstances, but rooted in inner understanding and spiritual maturity. To understand suffering more clearly, we must gently separate two things that are often confused: pain and suffering. Pain is a natural part of human life. It can be physical, emotional, or mental, and it arises whenever we experience loss, illness, disappointment, or change. Pain is unavoidable in a world of constant movement and impermanence. Suffering, however, is something different. Suffering is what happens when the mind resists pain. It is the inner struggle that says, "This should not be happening to me," or "Life is unfair." Pain may knock on the door, but suffering begins only when we refuse to let understanding enter. When we resist what is, the mind tightens and the heart closes. This resistance multiplies pain and gives it a longer life. But when pain is met with awareness, acceptance, and calm observation, it begins to soften. It may still hurt, but it no longer controls us. Spiritual wisdom does not teach us to deny pain or pretend to be strong. It teaches us to remain conscious within pain. In that awareness, we stop adding fear, anger, and self-pity to the experience. This is why spiritually mature souls appear peaceful even in difficulty. They feel pain, but they do not suffer in the same way, because they are no longer fighting life. They understand that every experience is temporary and meaningful. By letting go of resistance, pain becomes a teacher rather than a tormentor. It shows us where attachment exists and where understanding is needed. When this distinction is realized, a great shift occurs. Life no longer feels like an enemy. Even in moments of difficulty, there is a quiet strength within, a knowing that pain will pass and wisdom will remain. When suffering is met with awareness rather than resistance, it begins to change its nature. What once felt like an unbearable burden slowly becomes a doorway to deeper understanding. Every difficult experience carries a silent question for the soul: will this experience harden me, or will it awaken me? Suffering itself does not transform us, our response to it does. When pain is faced consciously, it loosens the grip of ego and self-centered thinking. It humbles us, reminding us that control is limited and that life is larger than our personal desires. Through suffering, the heart becomes more sensitive to the pain of others. Compassion is born not from theory, but from lived experience. One who has suffered deeply learns kindness naturally, because they understand what it means to hurt. At the same time, suffering strengthens inner endurance. It teaches the soul to remain steady even when outer conditions are unstable. Slowly, attention shifts away from external circumstances and turns inward, toward silence, reflection, and truth. Many spiritual awakenings do not begin in moments of joy, but in moments when familiar structures fall apart. When life no longer works the way it used to, the soul begins searching for something permanent. This search leads inward, beyond fear and attachment. Suffering becomes the force that breaks old patterns and creates space for awareness to grow. It is not meant to glorify pain, but to reveal its hidden purpose. When understood, suffering loses its cruelty. It becomes a refining fire, burning away ignorance, strengthening clarity, and guiding the seeker toward a deeper connection with their true nature. In this way, suffering is not the end of peace, but often the beginning of awakening. For the sincere seeker, the most important shift is not in circumstances, but in attitude. Life may not immediately change, but the way it is met can transform everything. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" the seeker learns to ask, "What is this experience teaching me?" This question opens the door to wisdom. It moves the mind away from helplessness and toward understanding. Suffering is no longer seen as something to escape at any cost, but as something to be observed, learned from, and gently transcended. The seeker's path forward is one of inner alignment. Through quiet reflection, meditation, and self-awareness, the mind becomes calmer and more centered. In stillness, clarity begins to arise. One learns not to react immediately to pain, but to witness it with patience. This witnessing creates space between the experience and the self, allowing peace to exist even when life feels uncertain. Over time, suffering begins to lose its intensity because it is no longer fed by fear or resistance. Gradually, trust in life develops, not a blind trust, but a deep inner knowing that every experience has meaning. The seeker understands that growth often arrives disguised as difficulty. With this understanding, the heart softens instead of hardening. Acceptance replaces resentment, and faith replaces despair. Suffering may still appear, but it no longer defines the journey. It becomes a passing phase in a much larger process of awakening. In this way, the seeker walks forward with quiet courage, knowing that nothing is wasted, not even pain, when it is met with awareness, sincerity, and inner devotion. As we come to the end of this reflection, let us pause for a moment and breathe quietly. Suffering, when seen only through the lens of fear, can feel cruel and meaningless. But when seen with awareness, it reveals itself as something very different. It is not here to punish you, and it is not here to defeat you. It comes as a teacher, often a silent one, guiding the soul toward deeper understanding. Every challenge you have faced has shaped your inner strength, even if you could not see it at the time. Nothing in your journey has been wasted. Each experience has carried you one step closer to knowing who you truly are beyond pain, beyond circumstance, beyond fear. If this message resonated with you, I invite you to sit with it quietly. Let these words settle in your heart, not as ideas to analyze, but as truths to feel. Remember that awakening is not a sudden event, it is a gentle unfolding. Be patient with yourself. Be kind to your own process. Life is not asking you to be perfect, it is asking you to be aware. Even in moments of difficulty, you are being guided, supported, and prepared for a deeper peace that does not depend on outer conditions. If this video brought you clarity, comfort, or a new perspective, please take a moment to support this journey. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who may be walking through a difficult time. I would also love to hear from you. Write a comment sharing what part of this message touched you most, or how you understand suffering in your own life. And tell me what you would like the next video to explore. What question is your soul asking right now? Until we meet again on this path of awareness and truth, walk gently, trust deeply, and keep listening inward. Jai Gurudev.